You ever feel the ground shift under your feet? One day, you're living your life with your family here in the United States, working, building a future, planning ahead, and suddenly questions start swirling. What if my legal status is at risk? What if I'm targeted even though I've done everything right? If you have a green card, your U.S. lawful permanent resident status, this is not fear-mongering, this is reality. A major deportation enforcement shift begins now for 2026, and you need to understand it, step by step, so you and your loved ones stay safe and protected. Today we will walk through what is happening, why it matters, and exactly what you need to know as a green card holder. Explained clearly and calmly, so there is no confusion. Let's start with the big picture. In 2025 and heading into 2026, the U.S. government has significantly increased immigration enforcement in ways that affect not just undocumented immigrants, but also people with legal status, including green card holders. This is not a speculative prediction. Policy changes, enforcement actions, and legislative developments over the last year show a clear intensification of deportation efforts that could affect many residents. Visa Verge +1. What does this mean in practical terms? It means that immigration authorities are expanding the scope and reach of enforcement operations. It means that priority categories for deportation are being broadened. It means expedited removal procedures, which allow deportation without a full court hearing, are being used more aggressively. It means massive funding has been allocated toward enforcement, detention, and interior arrests. Wikipedia. Now, I know that for many of you listening, your green card is your lifeline. It allows you to live and work here, to raise children, to buy property, and most of all, to plan for the future. So let's break all of this down. What is really changing, what the rules are now, and what steps you can take to protect yourself and your family. First, let's dispel one big misunderstanding that creates unnecessary anxiety. Having a green card does not mean you are immune from immigration enforcement. It is true that lawful permanent residents have stronger protections than someone without status. But those protections are not absolute. A green card can be revoked if the holder violates U.S. immigration law, commits certain crimes, or fails to meet residency rules. Bangla Press 24. Many people are surprised to learn that even longtime legal residents can face scrutiny. That is why staying informed and compliant, which we'll talk about in detail, is so important. So, what exactly is happening in 2026 that is different from before? The U.S. government has signaled an aggressive phase of enforcement, sometimes called a crackdown, that will involve interior enforcement, workplace enforcement, and more expedited deportation procedures across the country, not just on the border. Agencies like U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and Customs and Border Protection, CBP, are being funded and directed to increase their operations. Wikipedia. Instead of focusing only on people who cross the border without authorization, the enforcement scope now includes individuals already living in the interior of the United States. This can include legal residents. That's a big shift, and it creates real risk for people who may not realize how the law defines issues like continuous residence, criminal convictions, fraud, or abandonment of residence. Let's talk about continuous residence first, because it's one of the most misunderstood concepts. To maintain your green card status, the U.S. expects that you truly live in the United States. That doesn't just mean you visit occasionally, it means the U.S. is your primary home. If you spend long stretches outside the U.S., even with a valid green card and even with a re-entry permit, immigration officers may question whether you have abandoned your residence. Judges and officers look at things like how long you were outside the U.S., whether you maintained a home here, whether you paid taxes and had employment ties, whether your immediate family is here. The trend towards stricter enforcement means that green card holders with long stays abroad can be pulled aside at airports or ports of entry and questioned more intensely than before. In some reported cases, officers have even pressured lawful permanent residents to sign paperwork giving up their green cards. And people didn't realize that signing means waiving your rights permanently. That's serious. Always refuse to sign anything without speaking to an immigration attorney first. Reddit. Now let's discuss criminal convictions and deportation risk. This is another area where many well-meaning, law-abiding green card holders are taken by surprise. Under U.S. law, certain crimes can make even a lawful permanent resident removable, meaning that an immigration judge could order deportation. It's not only violent crimes. Things like theft, drug offenses, DUI, and even some minor offenses can lead to deportation proceedings if they qualify as aggravated felonies or crimes involving moral turpitude under immigration law. Over the past year, enforcement agencies have been more aggressive about identifying and arresting individuals with qualifying offenses. Wikipedia. If you are charged with a crime, even a minor one, it is critical to consult both a criminal defense lawyer and an immigration attorney before any plea deals or admissions. A plea that seems easy in criminal court could have devastating immigration consequences. Next, let's talk about expedited removal, one of the biggest changes underway. Expedited removal allows immigration officials to deport people without a full hearing before an immigration judge if they believe the individual meets certain criteria. Historically, this applied mainly to people near the border who had recently arrived. But in 2025 and into 2026, the government expanded this authority to a much broader group of non-citizens, including those inside the U.S. who cannot prove long-term continuous residence. Visa verge. This means that if someone is stopped interior to the U.S. and authorities determine they don't meet the continuous residence criteria, that person, even if a green card holder whose card has lapsed or whose documentation is outdated, can be processed for removal much more quickly than in the past. This doesn't mean every green card holder will be deported, but it does mean that informational requirements, documentation, and proof of residence are more important than ever. Let's take a moment and put that into real-life context. Imagine Maria. She has a green card and has lived in the U.S. for 5 years. She goes back to her home country to visit her parents for 7 months. She keeps her apartment in the U.S., pays taxes, and plans to return. When she comes back, CBP officers question her. They say they are concerned she may have abandoned her status. Under older practice, officers might have let Maria through with minimal questioning. But under the current enforcement climate, Maria could be pulled aside, asked difficult questions, and potentially referred to removal proceedings if they don't believe her answers or documents. This is not speculation. These kinds of interior interactions are increasing under the new enforcement focus. Visa verge. What can Maria and you do to protect yourself? The first step is documentation. Keep copies of your U.S. tax returns. Keep evidence of employment, leases, mortgages, or school enrollment. If you travel abroad for long periods, consider applying for a re-entry permit before you leave, especially for trips longer than 6 months. This permit shows that you intended to maintain U.S. residence. Always consult an immigration attorney to make sure you are eligible and that it is filed correctly. Next, always update your address with USCIS within 10 days of moving. This is required by law, and failure to do so can lead to complications or notices you don't receive, which can result in missed deadlines and possible deportation proceedings. Reddit. Now let's address a part of the crackdown many people overlook: workplace enforcement. In 2025, the U.S. government stepped up workplace enforcement actions, including raids and reviews of employment eligibility. The goal is to identify people who are working without authorization. But sometimes these operations sweep up people who do have authorization because records are complex and mistakes happen. Reuters. Green card holders are legally authorized to work, but if your paperwork isn't current or if your employer did not properly verify your status, issues like that can create headaches that could trigger an immigration compliance check. The best practice is to always keep your green card current and carry it or a copy when needed for employment verification. Another critical development to understand is the DHS and USCIS review of green card holders from certain countries of concern. Recently, the agency announced a review of permanent residents from 19 countries that it considers high risk or of concern. This means a broader re-examination of status and potentially additional questioning or documentation requests for people from those countries. Reddit. This isn't automatic deportation, but it means that if you are from one of these countries, your status may be under closer scrutiny. The key takeaway is, don't ignore notices from USCIS or DHS. Always open them, respond promptly, and get legal help if the communication is about your status. Let's pause here and talk about legal representation. This is one of the most important protective steps you can take. Immigration law is complicated, and right now, under the intensified enforcement climate, legal help isn't just helpful. It can literally be the difference between staying in the U.S. and being removed. If you receive any notice from DHS, ICE, USCIS, or an immigration court, do not wait. Contact a qualified immigration attorney immediately. Don't rely on community rumors or social media advice alone. A licensed attorney can explain your rights, help prepare responses, and make sure you attend every required hearing. Now, I want to give you some practical red flag moments that many people don't realize could affect their status. Letting your green card expire. If your card expires, you are still a lawful resident, but not having current documentation makes you vulnerable during any interaction with immigration or law enforcement. Renew early. Start the process at least 6 months before expiration. Reddit. Failing to register a new address. This seems simple, but missing an address update means crucial legal notices may never reach you. Pleading guilty to a crime without immigration counsel. Some criminal pleas that seem minor can trigger deportation consequences you didn't expect. Signing forms at the airport or border without knowing the impact. For example, signing Form I-407 voluntarily abandons your permanent resident status. If you are rushed or pressured, refuse to sign and seek legal counsel first. Reddit. This is information, not fear. You have rights, but you need to use them. Now let's talk about what won't get you deported, because understanding both sides helps reduce anxiety. Being a lawful permanent resident means you cannot be removed simply because you disagree with a policy, participate in political speech, or express your opinions. Those are protected activities. What matters under immigration law are specific legal grounds, criminal convictions, abandonment of residence, fraud in your immigration process, or violation of public safety laws. Yes, enforcement is increasing and interior checks are more frequent, but lawful residents with clean records, strong documentary proof of residence, and current documentation are significantly less at risk. It's also important to note that being placed into deportation proceedings is not the same as being deported immediately. You have the right to a hearing before an immigration judge, the right to present evidence, and in many cases, the right to appeal decisions. This is why having an attorney early in the process matters so much. Before we wrap up, let's talk about 2026 enforcement actions you should watch for. Migration experts and news sources have noted expanded workplace enforcement and raids with higher patrol funding. Reuters increased interior sweeps by ICE, often coordinated with local law enforcement. Visa verge stricter, expedited removal use across the country. Visa verge closer review of immigration status for certain country nationals. Reddit, tens of thousands more individuals in detention than in previous years. The Guardian. None of these things are automatic threats, but they are real trends that should inform your decisions this year and next. So what do you do now? Here are very clear next steps. In plain language, check your document dates. If your green card is expiring within the next year, start renewal right away. Update your address with USCIS if you have moved. Use the official online form. Keep proof of ties to the U.S. This includes tax returns, pay stubs, lease agreements, utility bills, anything that shows the U.S. is your home. Be cautious with travel. If you need to travel outside the U.S. for an extended period, consult an attorney first and consider a re-entry permit. Attend every appointment and hearing. Missing a hearing can lead to a deportation order in your absence. Get legal help early. Never wait until something goes wrong. Immigration attorneys help you understand risks before they become emergencies. I know this is a lot of information, and that may feel overwhelming, but that overwhelm can turn into power when you act with knowledge and intention. You are listening and educating yourself. That is the first and most important step. The U.S. immigration system is complicated and it is changing, but you deserve to live your life with clarity, confidence, and protection. The more you understand, the better you can make good decisions for you and your family. If you want more updates like this, clear explanations of policy changes, and step-by-step legal guidance you can trust, please hit subscribe now and join the Legal Focus USA community. We'll keep bringing you the information you need to stay informed and protected. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.